Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is point. Let's look at some definitions. One way to use this verb point is to mean to direct or aim something at someone or something. Another way we could use the verb point is to mean to indicate a particular time, direction, or reading. And indicate can mean show. You might think of a sign indicating a particular direction, pointing you in a particular direction. Another meaning for point is to face or be turned in a particular direction. And another meaning for point is to extend the toes or feet in order to form a point. Now, there are some additional ways that this word can be used. So feel free to check out a dictionary and look at the number of meanings that exist for this verb. Point is a regular verb. You can make the progressive form by just adding ing, and we pronounce that pointing. To form the past tense and participle form of the verb, all you need to do is add ed. And because this verb ends in a T sound, that ed is going to make an id sound. Pointed, pointed. Let's continue looking at some other meanings for the phrasal verbs that are connected to point. And the first phrasal verb that we're going to look at, I think, is something you'll be very familiar with. That's point at. And it means that you're directing someone's attention towards something using your finger or maybe another object. Right? So it's this action. That's all point at can mean. So here it is in a sentence. Don't point at strangers. Right? This is an imperative, a command. This is maybe something you might say to a small child because pointing at someone could seem rude. Another phrasal verb you might hear is point out. And we can use this to mean a couple different things. The first meaning is to make someone aware of something. And this occurs when you're speaking. So here's an example. She pointed out that we had to make a decision too. So perhaps this person interrupts a meeting or a discussion and says, remember, we have to do this. That's the action of pointing out. Another way we might use this phrasal verb is to point somebody out or to point something out. And with this, the meaning here is we are trying to show, usually someone, a particular person or thing that maybe we've been referencing or we've been talking about. So here's an example of this. The tour guide pointed out the historic sites. So imagine you're getting a tour and someone says, if you look to your left, you will see such and such. And they start to describe it and explain maybe why this thing is important. That's the action of pointing something out. Another phrasal verb you might hear is point to. And the meaning here is to suggest something is true or likely. Here it is in a sentence. All the signs point to a difficult year ahead. So some people have actually said very similar sentences or written this based on the pandemic and other events in the world, that this has been a challenging year and it looks like it will continue to be challenging or difficult. We're going to continue using our verb of the day, point, to talk about possibility. And possibility is always referencing something in the future. But what's different from using the simple future, the be going to or will form, is that we're really not certain that something is going to happen. And there are three ways that we can talk about possibility. And the nice thing is they're interchangeable. They're going to have the same meaning, and the way we structure our sentences will also be very similar. So the three modals we can use to talk about possibility are may, might, and could. And to make affirmative sentences, we can use one of these modals and then the base verb. So today that's just going to be point. So let's look at a couple examples. The first, her medical research may point to a new treatment for cancer. Okay? Not certain, but it is likely or a possibility. Here's another. That sign might point us to the right location. We're not certain, again. Finally, the last affirmative example, he could point the flashlight in our direction. This goes back to that first definition we talked about at the beginning of the video. So with all of these sentences, I could switch the modal that's there. So in the first one, her medical research might point, or her medical research could point. My meaning does not change. Let's look at negative sentences next. With negative, we're only going to use may not or might not, and then our base verb. So don't use could when your intent is to be negative. So this is something we don't believe will happen, or it's not possible. Okay? Here's the first example. This information may not point to deeper problems. So again, that goes back to indicate or suggest, our phrasal verb meaning. Another example of the negative, those symptoms might not point to anything serious. Finally, if we want to make a question to ask about possibility, we're not going to use these modals may, might, or could. We're going to use our future tense, which might seem a little funny. But again, when we're thinking about the future, we're not always 100% certain that something is going to happen. So you could use will, you can use be going to, it doesn't matter. But what will change is how you answer. So when you are not certain and someone is asking you a question about a possibility, a possible activity, possible action, you can respond with yes or no answers of I may not, I may, or in the negative, I may not. You say I might, or I might not, or I could, but don't use the negative there. So you have three options for affirmative answers and then two options for negatives. And I have all of those examples there. So let's take a look at a few questions that are going to ask about possibility using point. Are you going to point out where we should turn? Another example, will they point their toes while dancing? Or is the teacher going to point out when it is time to switch partners? Okay. So you can see all the answers written in the same boxes as the questions. Let's continue to talk about some words that are related to our verb point. And the first thing we're going to discuss today is noun meanings for the word point. So you'll notice same spelling, same pronunciation. And this noun form can have many different meanings. I've picked out 5 that I think might be more common for you to either see or hear. The first meaning for the noun point is a tapered or sharp end of a tool, a weapon, or other object. Here's an example sentence. She sharpened the pencil to a point. So with this example, this is the other object. Hopefully a pencil is not a weapon or used as such. But again, we're thinking of that coming to a sharp end. Another meaning for the noun point is a decimal point. So let's take a look at an example. His temperature is 98.6. So I don't actually have the word written in this sentence, but that's how I read that symbol. Another meaning for this noun point is a particular spot, place, or position. Here's an example sentence. They were at the point of quitting. So they had reached a place where they were like, I can't do this job any longer. Another meaning for point is an item or a detail in an extended discussion, a list, or a text. And by text here, I'm thinking of a magazine article, a book, not just a text message. Okay? Here's an example. I have many points to discuss. The final way you might hear the noun form of point being used is to mean a unit of scoring. So if you enjoy sports, it's very common. You'll hear this word used. The team scored 50 points. Another related word to our verb is as an adjective form, pointed. And it can also have a couple different meanings. The first way this adjective gets used is to describe either someone's words or a particular look on their face. And that either their words or the look on their face is expressing criticism. So here's the adjective in a sentence. The speaker made pointed comments about police brutality. So the last way we're going to use pointed today is to just mean sharp or piercing. Here's an example of that. Place the pointed end of the pen into the cork board. And I included a little picture here so that you could maybe visualize that. Cork board isn't something you hear often, but it might be something you see in your workplace or in classrooms. And if you think about these little pins that are common in cork boards, there is a pointed end, one that is very sharp. Another way to think of that. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.